Hello everyone and welcome back to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy, where we showcase Magic's most powerful formats. My name is Eugene and I'll be your commentator for this round 3 from May 24th. Today we have Blue-Red Delver versus our 4-color deck Stryfo pile. Andrew on the left piloting the Blue-Red Delver deck. Everyone is familiar with this strategy of protect the president, get that Delver of Secrets down early, or even a Dragon's Rage channeler and start to generate a ton of value by casting all of your cantrips, protecting your creature, and getting in for 3 damage a turn until they're dead. And if that doesn't work, why don't you cast a Murktide Regent for 2 mana? This is a pretty good strategy mid to late game, paired with the Expressive Iteration and straight damage with Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt that has cemented this deck as a firm part of our meta. On the right, we have Bryson piloting his 4-color deck pile. This deck loves to have 2 drops of all sorts: Expressive Iteration, Assassin's Trophy, Baleful Strix. It's basically a mid-range deck, mid-range control deck that tries to establish itself in early game. It also has the win conditions of Murktide Regent, and it loves to play Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, to constantly generate advantage in mid-game. And it can also win the game out of nowhere with the Witherbloom Apprentice Chain of Smog combo. And if it can't do all of that, it does also have the Punishing Fire Grove of the Burn Willows combo that can generate advantage over several turns if he has the upper hand in the game state. So we have the Tempo deck versus the Control deck. Let's do it. I think we have Bryson on the play here, starting with a Misty Rainforest. A lot of fetch lands from this deck. We see Andrew deploying the Delver of Secrets turn 1. Always a great play for the Delver deck. Bryson firing off, putting down another fetch land here. This one's Scalding Tarn. Getting a duel out of the deck to get rid of that Delver of Secrets with a Lightning Bolt, getting a Volcanic Island. Fun fact, Bryson has 0 basics in his deck and ends up being pretty susceptible to the Wasteland deck. As we see here, Andrew deploying his first Wasteland. Then just going to follow that up with a Ponder. Now, Andrew is well known at our store for being a Stryfo player. And even the deck I have brought up here actually has 3 copies of Stryfo in it. Although I do not believe that this list is 100% accurate, playing against Andrew, you always have to wonder if he has the days. And so you see a lot of players trying to play around that, maybe cracking their fetch lands when Andrew doesn't have any blue up. I don't think we're actually even going to see any dazes, I keep saying it, any stifles from Andrew in this game. We see a Brainstorm, probably setting up for a fetch here, getting rid of some stuff that he doesn't want to see. He thinks about it, but goes ahead and passes turn. So if he is going to use that Brainstorm to its full effect, we're going to see him crack it at the end of Bryson's turn here. All right, Bryson with 3 fetch lands. He's asking for each one, trying to make sure that in a situation like that, you don't want to get completely blown out. So no dazes there, no stifles. I'm going to keep saying stifle and daze interchangeably till everyone's confused. We see a bird come down, Baleful Strix, getting to draw Bryson a little bit of card advantage. Basically a cantrip replacing itself and getting down a 1/1 Death Touch flyer. So here goes the fetch land for Andrew, grabbing the Volcanic Island. I believe there's 5 copies of Volcanic Island in the deck. 4 actual Volcanic Islands and a Steam Vent. There might actually be 2 Steam Vents in the deck, depending on how hungry this deck is for that red source. See another Brainstorm before land drop. Putting 2 back on top. Probably going to be playing a fetch land here. Oh, the Wasteland. Second Wasteland for the game, trying to decide what to keep Bryson off of. Is it red mana or black mana? Andrew decides to destroy the Underground Sea and deploys another Delver of Secrets. Hopefully this Delver will stick around a little bit longer to generate him more advantage and get those beats going. See Bryson firing off his own Brainstorm on his main phase. We're going to see a Daze here in response to the Brainstorm. Actually a fairly good play for denial of resources. Denial of advantage, more so. As Bryson had to crack his fetch land in response to be able to pay for that Daze. And if Bryson doesn't draw into another fetch land, then he's going to basically put the cards, he's going to brain lock himself here. Looks like we're seeing a bunch of expressive iterations. I think that was one dual land, so I don't think Bryson has the fetch land in order to get rid of the two cards he doesn't want to see. So, going to end up seeing these anyways. Looked like one of the expressive iterations went back, playing a land for turn. Oh, it is a Misty. So he can crack that if he wants to. But I guess he wants to see the cards that were on top still. Not attacking with the Baleful Strix. Third Wasteland from Andrew here. Getting rid of that Tropical Island. Offering to trade with the Delver of Secrets. A lot of actions taken this game. Not a ton of resources to be shown for on the board. Just 2 lands for Bryson and 1 land for Andrew. Although we do know that Andrew is holding on to that other volcanic island, having to bounce it to play that Daze last turn. 2 mana from Bryson is going to get an expressive iteration. We're going to see a Daze in response. And Bryson plays his land for turn. He was hoping to exile a land in order to get max value out of the expressive iteration. So, feeling a little bit bad about that, but still was the correct line of play. Seeing a Chain of Smog being fired off here, forcing Andrew to discard 2 cards. Does not fire it back. Andrew doesn't want to lose more cards than he has to. Although that card, Chain of Smog, could have emptied both players of their entire hand if they kept firing it back at each other. Seeing another expressive iteration from Bryson. Playing around the Daze this time, getting to exile the land, getting max value out of the expressive iteration. Putting a Grove of the Burn Willows into play. Andrew deciding that he wants to fire off his own expressive iteration. Getting the land as well and a card to hand. Looks like he's got a Force of Negation. I'm not sure what else he's got. Ooh, sent a Lightning Bolt to the bottom. Guess direct damage isn't exactly what Andrew wants to do right now. Although Lightning Bolt is good for dealing with things like Witherbloom Apprentice. Seeing a Ponder with that extra mana. 2 Force of Wills. Going to draw Force of Will, put a Force of Will back on top and the other card. Just passing it back. Both of these players trying to generate as much advantage as possible here, as it is abundantly difficult to stick a threat. We see Uro being cast. Going to be able to draw a card, gain some life. Although didn't see that extra land for the extra land drop. So pass it right back. It looks like Bryson's got at least one Witherbloom Apprentice in hand. It's going to take him a miracle to get both the Witherbloom Apprentice down and resolve a Chain of Smog. Seeing another expressive iteration from Andrew. See the expressive iteration in hand and a Force of Will to the bottom. Decides to crack. Probably going to try and cast this expressive iteration. Did not see the land drop. Ooh, cracking the Misty to get the... Oh, this isn't an updated list. So grabbing that Mystic Sanctuary, that is going to be able to get him an instant or sorcery back on top of his deck, which he is going to choose the expressive iteration, kind of chaining iteration into iteration here. Sorry about not having that updated list. Gonna pause it real quick. was able to find that card for you. Just passing it back to Bryson after casting 2 Expressive Iterations and putting an Expressive Iteration into hand. We're seeing a Witherbloom Apprentice come down. Now this is one piece of the 2-piece combo. Looks like Andrew isn't going to fight over it, even though he's definitely got at least 1 Force of Will in hand. Probably because Bryson also has 5 to 6 cards in hand of his own. Decides it's not worth fighting and losing all resources over this card. Especially if Bryson doesn't have the Chain of Smog yet. It's just incremental damage over time. Another Expressive Iteration. Getting to play that Mishra's Bauble for free. 0 cast. Not seeing any Dragon's Rage Channelers this game is very interesting. Not seeing any threats. I think we've seen 2 Delver of Secrets, and that's it from Andrew here. Looks like he's got that Brazen Borrower in hand, which could turn into 3 damage. 3 mana open could flash it in, or Petty Theft the Witherbloom Apprentice, try and set Bryson back just a little bit. We see a second Witherbloom come down. Now this is going to start to be a big deal here. So we're going to rewind just a little bit. This second Witherbloom on the stack. Andrew trying to decide if it's worth killing one of these Witherbloom Apprentices or fighting over this one. It looks like he's definitely got the Daze. He's got a Force of Will. So now with both of these Witherbloom Apprentices resolved, every time that Bryson casts an instant or sorcery, it's going to drain Andrew for 2. So deal 2 to Andrew and Bryson gain 2 here. So this could quickly become Bryson's win condition here. All he has to do is make sure that he has the advantage and is kind of staying ahead of Andrew with counterspells. And this is just going to lead him to victory. Oh, and he can also attack with them, of course. So 2 damage coming through. It's going to connect. And we see that Brazen Borrower getting flashed in from Andrew. Casting a Punishing Fire. It's going to get dazed. They missed the trigger here, but they will pick up that Andrew should be at 12. There we go. Every time cast an instant or sorcery. So Andrew definitely losing this race here. Even with that Brazen Borrower in play, he's going to have to do some serious catching up. Putting the Mystic Sanctuary back into play, since that was the island he bounced with the Daze. Getting maximum value out of that Mystic Sanctuary. Especially in late game, it turns Dazes, which are often a dead card in late game, into some serious advantage. Seeing a Kolaghan's Command getting cast here. I think the modes were kill this Brazen Borrower and return a Baleful Strix from my graveyard to play, or to hand. Yeah, to hand. It did catch a Force of Will, hard cast. So the Brazen Borrower does get to live, but those Witherbloom Apprentice triggers are very real and closing in on Andrew's life total. See another Expressive Iteration, the 4th Expressive Iteration cast for the game, maybe the 5th. Seeing another one exiled. And a Dragon's Rage Channeler finally enters the battlefield for the first time in the game. Getting that Surveil trigger from the Expressive getting cast. Should have had a little counter in the corner. Counting how many Expressive Iterations had been cast. I might just go back and add that. See a Punishing Fire being returned from the graveyard and gaining a life from the Grove of the Burn Willows. See an Assassin's Trophy being deployed here, draining Andrew just a little bit more. A Force of Will and a Force of Will back, putting Andrew to 2. And Andrew's going to say that's just a little too much, can't deal with all these things, and we're going to go to game 2. So Andrew down a game, Bryson up a game. It's a weird way to say that. Bryson has won the first game. Only needs to win one more to close it out here. Seeing a Brainstorm is the first action of the game from Andrew on turn 2. Going to use it for maximum value. Get rid of 2 dead cards in the hand. Looks like he's going to cast a DRC to start the game early. Getting this card into play towards the start of the game can generate a ton of value with that Surveil trigger. And 3 damage per attack isn't bad either. I think Andrew is already at 3 different card types in the grave. Instant, sorcery, and land. If that other card is a ponder, I can't quite tell. Another DRC into play. So this is threatening 6 damage a turn if he can get the Delirium activated here. Although Bryson does have the Baleful Strix in play. Ooh, a Punishing Fire from Bryson. See if he's going to fight over that. Nope. Without a Grove of the Burn Willows in play, the Punishing Fire may just sit in the graveyard for a while here. We see creature added to the graveyard for Andrew. So the Dragon's Rage Channeler might be online at this point. Really can't tell. Well, it definitely is now because the Expressive Iteration was cast. So definitely have 4 types. Now, DRC does have to attack each turn if able. So Andrew will be losing this DRC. Oh, no he won't. Since he had the Lightning Bolt for the Baleful Strix. The way is cleared. Dragon's Rage Channeler comes across for 3. And Bryson's down to 14. Pass the turn. Bryson trying to decide best course of action. We see a Lightning Bolt from him, getting rid of the second Dragon's Rage Channeler on Andrew's side, and just pass it right back. With all of the surveilling that was being done, Andrew's graveyard is already huge, so firing off a Murktide Regent and growing it for several counters. It looks like Andrew did keep Delirium, just to make sure in case he draws another DRC. Yes, for sure. This Murktide's only coming in with 2 counters, so it's just a 5/5 for 2 mana. 5/5 flying, 2 mana. Pretty good card. See DRC number 3 being deployed here. Expressive Iteration, Surveil trigger. Decides to keep the card on top of the deck before the Expressive Iteration goes off. Getting that land into play. Now he has to decide if he's going to attack. Just pass his turn. Doesn't want to trade his 5/5 for a 1/1. Oh, the Grove is back. Although 2 damage isn't as useful at this point anymore. We're seeing it return to hand anyways. So mana was made off of the Grove for this Assassin's Trophy, and the Punishing Fire was returned for value since Bryson wasn't doing anything else with that mana. We see the Assassin's Trophy hitting the Murktide Regent, getting a basic land for the destruction of that card, and the Misty getting sacrificed to get that Mystic Sanctuary, putting the Expressive Iteration back on top. Back to Andrew's turn here. Still have that 3/3 DRC. Gonna have to deal with this Baleful Strix this turn, or he's just gonna throw away DRC to combat. 3 cards. Looks like there's a Wasteland there. And a Delver. But the Delver goes away. Don't need to see Delver right now. Wasteland going to be fired off. Getting the Black Source. Andrew definitely wants to make sure he keeps Bryson off of black, as that is one of the ways that Bryson can win out of nowhere. We see a Lightning Bolt with that Surveil trigger. A Delver goes to the graveyard. 3 damage, unfettered going through. And another Murktide Regent being deployed here. Making sure to maintain Delirium. A lot more triggers on this one. A lot more counters. This particular Murktide Regent is a 7/7 for 2 mana. So this is 10 damage coming through, dropping Bryson all the way down to 4. Better make something happen this turn, Bryson. Looking at his hand, he's got the Witherbloom, but I don't think he has 2 black sources. Sees a Lightning Bolt, and that is game. So both players 1-1 right now. Going into game 3, Bryson starting the play here. Seeing a couple fetch lands from both players. Volcanic Island, of course, on the Delver side. DRC into Mishra's Bauble. Getting a Surveil trigger. Decided to keep the card on top, though. Getting to draw an extra card when sacrificed. Just another fetch land pass for Bryson. Seeing a Ponder on Andrew's side. Surveil trigger kept the card in hand. Well, not in hand, but on the top of the deck. This looks like a Murktide Regent. A couple other things, wasn't sure. Just need one more type, either instant or creature, to the grave here to get DRC online. Andrew presenting the Wasteland. Bryson not doing anything for turn 3 either. See an expressive iteration. That's going to send creature to the graveyard here. So DRC is now a 3/3. Expressive iteration doing its thing. Getting that land drop in play. Getting a free card to hand. Looks like it was a Brainstorm. I think Andrew is in a pretty good spot here. Delver firing on all cylinders, as Bryson kind of sits around not doing much of anything. Decides to crack the Verdant Catacombs. It looks like he's got at least Chain of Smog in hand. He might just be trying to go for Witherbloom, Chain of Smog, end the game. Maybe he's got a couple of Force of Will backups to deal with whatever Andrew has. Since dealing with Delver, you definitely know that they're going to have at least one, if not 2, counterspells of some sort. So we're seeing a Badlands and a Tropical Island, which is going to do an expressive iteration here. It looks like that's going to catch a Force of Will. Or maybe it's not. A Wasteland in response to the expressive iteration being cast. Cracking the Scalding Tarn gets a Volcanic Island. And then we're paying 1 for a Pyroblast, getting rid of the blue spell. And that's going to be all Bryson does that turn. Drawing another Wasteland. Getting rid of the Tropical Island as well. Seeing expressive iteration being cast. Gets rid of that Daze that was on top. Not the most useful card right now. Although with Bryson so far behind, I'm not entirely certain how he's supposed to come back from this. Just has the Scalding Tarn in play. Decides to pass it. 6 damage presented with these 2 DRCs. All the way down to 5. Basically has one more turn to try and make something happen. But Andrew will deploy a threat in the form of Murktide Regent, just to make sure that if he can somehow deal with those 2 DRCs, he's got that backup. What is it going to be? 8 damage? 6 damage? Bryson shows the hand. And that's going to be the end of game 3, and Delver is going to take it for this one. Thanks as always for joining us for that match. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did commentating it. If this is your first time to the channel, why don't you check out some of our other videos? We have 100 videos and one with this one going up on the channel. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel so you can be up to date on all of our newest videos. As always, thanks to Spellhold Games for allowing us to record in their store. We would not exist without you. And finally, please join us for our next match, which is going to be the third round of our Pauper tournament from May 13th. It is Jund Gardens versus Dimmer Fish, or Demir Fish. We'll see you then.